Good morning. Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Matt Harpold. I am the Client Engagement Manager with Web Courseworks. Really happy to have everybody here. Before we get started with the webinar, I want to direct everyone to the control panel where you will be able to find the question pane where you will be submitting questions for the event. As we go, we'll be taking questions live during the session, so feel free to enter those into the question pane. I will raise my hand and make sure we ask our speakers so we can address them as we go through. We'll be starting at the top of the hour, so sit tight and we will be starting shortly. Hello again, everyone. Good morning or good noon, depending on where you are located. Want to thank everybody for joining today. Again, my name is Matt Harpold. I am the Client Engagement Manager at Web Courseworks, and I will be serving as today's host. We have reached the top of the hour and we'll be getting started with today's webinar, bringing your Career Center and LMS together to create an association skills platform. But first, allow me to introduce our speakers. We have Dr. Jon Aleckson, e-learning consultant at Web Courseworks. Dr. Jon Aleckson is an education leader and consultant for association learning technologies and e-learning. He works with an extensive list of association clients on LMS implementations and development, platform alignment and integration, and online curriculum development, giving him a holistic view of business models, operation practices, and educational approaches in association e-learning. Along with Jon, we have Joshua Slyman, product strategist with Web Scribble. Joshua is a cross-platform product strategist, customer experience advocate, and subversive problem solver. His experience extends in full service marketing and community management through customer success and SaaS product strategy. Josh focuses on building bridges to build a community and amplify individuals. His strengths deliver holistic cross-platform engagement products and strategies for corporate and association markets that foster and deepen member relationships, showcase individual and organizational impact, and identify and grow ROI. Jon, Josh, thank you both for joining us today, and I'll send you off.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having us. Jon, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, Josh, this is great. I'm excited to have a little conversation here about your product at Web Scribble and our product at Web Courseworks called Course Stage and how we integrate.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity here in the current environment, which actually lets us set a little bit of context. I think we've all seen, right, the idea of the Great Resignation. Nearly 50 million Americans quit their jobs in 2020. Just this month, the new numbers just came out. 4.4 million left their jobs in February, which was actually a bump up from January, which was 4.3 million. Currently 11.3 million jobs available in America, just shy of our all-time high in December of 2020. So, I mean, I think this really sort of sets some context as to, where the shift is in terms of employer and employee.
Yeah, it's a good time to be an employee.
For sure, for sure. All right. So, Jon, I'm sure you're seeing this in your customer base. The situation is really broadly impacting associations and member-based organizations.
Yeah, and I think one of the opportunities for members during this period is it's not only about money, which is obviously happening in terms of raises, but it's also in really looking at where they want to go on their career path and where they want to go from their skills, and really this is the time to take advantage of it because you can jump a level or two during this period.
Right, absolutely. I think we're seeing with customers some challenges around industry and role changes. There seems to be a lot more opportunity, and so there we see some movement within industries. I think everybody right now, right, is sort of struggling to make sure they're properly valued and acknowledged. And I think that's one of those places, right, where Web Courseworks really supports the member growth.
Right. We're going to talk a little bit about that, and your platforms need to support this. And I think it really, from my point of view as an educator, it really focuses on understanding the skills that you need to do your job. Yes, there's the opportunity to move up, particularly in management and leadership. A great number of baby boomers, retired over the pandemic, and so it's an awesome time for people that really want to move up in their career. And the big question is do they have the skills? Do they know where to get them?
Right. Right. And then how do you take those skills aligned with our association mission and take that out into the marketplace?
Right. And the important thing too is that these communities of practice, which are associations, I mean, that's a big role
Mhm.
to really help their members.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think, and I think what's interesting is the level of opportunity for the association to use learning and career to really start to lay a foundation, both for their own challenges as an organization, but then also for member challenges as well.
Right. Yeah, it's, it's an opportunity for the association and an opportunity for members.
Yeah, and I think this first one bullet point here really is to me is sort of indicative of the struggle right now for associations, because they're getting this double hit in this Great Resignation, right? Because they have to secure or maintain their own staffing levels, which we already know are is it's always more hats than per user than or per employee than standard. So making anytime we lose a person, a team member from the association, right, there's a level of knowledge and skill set, as well as probably two different hats, three different hats, right?
Right. And that goes for the industries the association serves or the membership communities they serve. You know, this great resignation is happening in all types of industries. And so it's a mission of the association to provide that for the people they represent.
Right, right. And I think, back to the idea of how these platforms come together and serve those organizational challenges, right? Like it gives you tools and an opportunity to secure that staff, in learning opportunity, also in access to talent as we generate a resume database and work with the association to understand our members.
Right. And of course, we can't forget the potential non-dues revenue source.
Always, always don't want to forget that piece. And I think the other part about this is both of these platforms have the ability to generate non-dues revenue. And if we put them together, right, we're really allowing a member to walk down a path and drive the revenue for the organization.
Right. It's a win-win situation.
Absolutely. So I think historically, we all know, right, that associations support member career security by by bringing people together, networking under the association, um, by providing opportunity in the idea of a job board and the learning opportunities like with Web Courseworks.
Right. Absolutely. I love this one, by the
Yeah,
way. I
yeah. This
really
is
think, Josh,
this-
you put together it's always good to go up to the 60,000 foot level and take a look at it. Explain this to me here. I know where I fit in, but
Sure, sure. Well, and I think the big piece of it is there's sort of three parts of this: is the find the job, on the job, and get the job, right? So, and what we want to do is make sure that we're supporting each part of that path across our digital ecosystem, through our tech stack, and in a way that is cohesive. And user friendly, and leverages as much single sign-on and user-focused navigation as possible. And right now, historically, oops, sorry, I'll hop back. Historically, right, our members are sort of all over the internet looking for jobs. We've got them at LinkedIn, we've
right,
got them at ZipRecruiter, Indeed, and all of those are a very broad stroke. While yes, you can target and filter, what you don't have is the acknowledgement of the talent within the community, right? These are already highly talented, segmented people.
Right.
So by bringing
Definitely.
that job board into the community versus sending our members out to the greater ethos, we have the ability to target that content and that value for the member.
Absolutely. We want our members coming to our platform.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of salary data, people are using salary.com and Glassdoor. Again, here's an opportunity for us to sort of own the industry as an association and bring in some career pathing that also allows us to understand the salary and the skill sets that are around the jobs within our segmented industry, so that we can support the members with the education piece.
Josh, do you feel that associations still own that? I mean, the big one of the reasons people oftentimes join, one of the benefits they get is that salary survey. Do you think the associations are still prominent in that, and that they have good data when it comes to salary?
Absolutely, and I think, and part of that, John, I think is sort of acknowledging our tech stack and our opportunity to learn and understand from our members information, as well as their behaviors throughout our digital ecosystem. And I think so. Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity still around defining that, but also setting expectations going forward, right? As an association, we share a mission around advancing this industry, this technology, these people. So I think that's a large part of that is how we can take that and reflect it out into the ethos with our members' careers and work.
I really like the prominence of mentorship, because I think that the networking opportunities we get from being a member are enormous, and an association's tech stack should support that.
Mm.
And we like to encourage, when it comes to online courseware, that mentorship concept be built into actual courses and workshops.
I think that's a great idea, and I love how that basically, again, right, we're laying a foundation of support for our members to really drive their end goals, and I think if we have the ability to deepen that engagement, and membership is a great mentorship is a great opportunity to really depthen the relationships and the engagement within our community.
And of course, the association's learning programs, beyond the annual meeting, the certifications that they provide, maybe the credential that they provide, is very strong benefit, obviously, for being in the association. But the idea here is, and the reason for this webinar, is to kind of talk about some of the things that are being done to really identify the skills needed for various jobs in the specific industry or community, and the various ways of getting those skills. And we really want the association to be a leader in providing courseware for certifications and for skills that are recognized on the job boards.
Absolutely, and I think there the opportunity to also create right content and educational pathing that supports the organization's mission, and tie that into the career pathing that currently exists.
Right. Yeah, we've done a lot of work through the years for the Credit Union National Association, and one of the things that has made them so successful is their content is specific to the industry.
Mhm. Absolutely.
You cannot get the kind of content they provide from other sources. And one little box that's missing here is, the university extensions,
Mm.
and they're really moving very strongly in the area of beefing up their effort to provide credentials and skills, as they get grants for workforce development and such. So associations really want to, speed up their efforts, or should speed up their efforts, to become a leader in their community, because the universities with their extension programs are going to be, heavy competition.
Sure, sure. And I think there's opportunity too with with the mentorship in bringing in some of those, those other pieces of the puzzle, and how can we, again, as we're connecting and talking about fostering that member journey, where do they play a role, and how can they support that end goal?
Right. Yeah, and I also want to add too on the university extension part of it is that back 20, 30 years ago, universities were the source for content. And then they drifted away from that. So it doesn't hurt to collaborate with universities to provide more online and face-to-face offerings for your members.
Absolutely. And that brings an interesting point, right? Which is now associations theoretically have that spot, right? They are the content creators, the thought leaders, the ability to advance the mission. And not to say that it has stepped fully away from that educational piece, but that's part of the phase. And as we move through the education part of it, we move into that association and the support networks.
Yep.
And so basically the idea, back to the fragmented look, is if we as the association become sort of the umbrella for the for building member success, for learning opportunity, for career pathing, for career opportunity, for access to prospectors and or professionals within the industry looking for my specific talent, then that really drives the association's value, which drives retention.
Right.
So I think that there's a lot of opportunity in bringing things together, in aligning the efforts we're already doing to a large degree across our digital ecoscape, and start looking at that a little bit more holistically.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about sort of the, getting down into the details, because we've been talking strategically here, why you want to make investments in collaboration between your learning platform and your job board. But I wanted to kind of go back to basics here to kind of ground us in what's necessary. So I'm going to talk a little bit about competency mapping and setting, the skills that are needed for various jobs. But once that's done, you have the idea of courses, curriculums, and credentials. And this little graphic kind of shows that a course does not necessarily make a certificate, or a course doesn't necessarily make a credential or fulfill a skill. It's generally, at least we would like to think it is, a series of courses which then in combination build to a credential or a certificate. So the idea is that let's take something as simple as leadership. There's obviously very many dynamics to being a good leader in a certain context, and it's going to take more than one course to educate a member on leadership for a specific type of area. And so when you look at building out that that certificate or credential, you really want to look at it as a curriculum, and a curriculum is a series of courses.
I think that's a great perspective. It ties very tightly to the idea of how we're serving the members' path, their journey individually. I think it's very much tied to that idea, but it also, like, I see a ton of opportunity around driving internal engagement, using these tools together to drive repeat logins, right? If we're moving people through a career pathing, that's a reason for them to be in the digital ecoscape on a regular basis, to be engaging with the mentorship program or other members in discussions or within the community platforms. There's opportunity in your standard life cycling communications to bring this value into your emails, and really foster that path in our standard life cycle communications.
Absolutely.
It's really exciting. I like the way that this, it sort of creates the concept of a funnel, right? Like we're starting at the high level, and then as we're getting further and further down, our skill set is increasing, and our value, right, our talent is becoming a higher level.
So I'm going to just talk a little bit about competency frameworks, and this is something that's I always like to say it can be a happy place in the future. It's something that we aspire to, and it's no easy task. Um, Associations have spent a great deal of resources on building competency frameworks. Uh, is it an important mission of an association? Absolutely. And do you need the help of your experts within your membership? Absolutely. But the idea is that you set a goal to build competency frameworks, to use a platform, to tie it into credentialing, which and then again ties into the ability to use it as a badge or recognition out on the job board. So the idea is you got to start with defining competency frameworks and defining the skills that members need to do a specific job. I mean, and I go back to the credit union example. I mean, clearly tellers, there's certain skills that they need to have. Member service representatives, there's clear a list of skills they need, and that should be tracked by the learning platform. The other thing too that a platform should have is the ability for a member to self-report learning. So there's types of learning today, whether it's being a speaker at a conference, or maybe it's something as simple as doing a poster session at a conference, attending the conference. Those things need to be self-reported to the platform. And then the platform, of course, would need to be the center of the members' education world, in that there would be a transcript or the lifelong learning portfolio of the member. Because again, you're providing member value by being that center of their lifelong learning within a profession. And who better to house the learning portfolio of your members than the association? It's not the university's job. They come and go, universities do, and they're really tied into specific types of degrees. It's the job of the National Association to maintain that lifelong learning record for members.
This also brings an interesting point for me, which is, the idea of what we know and understand about our members, right, and how we can use and leverage that information in order to foster this path of growth or move them down a learned understanding or a certain specific skill set. And so, this is another one of those approaches, or another one of those pieces of that cross-platform full ecoscape puzzle, that if we understand it holistically, we can really use it to support individual personalization around the member's path.
Yep.
Yep, I think that's an important piece, and I think there's opportunity too in creating content around the support, the benefit of these self-reporting options, so that it gives us content to deliver that adds value, but it also helps people understand how and where to leverage the tool set.
The other thing too, from a content standpoint, is the association typically has the experts that can support the development of exquisite and innovative learning. Really, there's no other place to go, because you're belonging to a community of practice, and you have your rock stars and your heroes in your community, and typically they want to give back. They're writing books. They are speaking, and the association's mission is to capture that and to market it to their members.
Absolutely. And this is one of those places where we can find some internal efficiency, right? Because if we can move some of that content creation onto the membership, use it as a way to highlight and focus some attention on that member and their success story, but also to deliver some content and some fresh assistance out to our membership, it's a win-win.
Yep.
Great. So
Okay.
in terms of how Web Scribble sort of comes together with the learning pieces that John has been talking about, I think we have the career pathing, which I think we've talked about a little bit, but to your earlier conversation, John, this is really about identifying and knowing the skill set that is needed to move into that next role, to have some visibility and understanding on what the industry salaries are, what the expectation from those types of employers are, and this is a great support tool for associations to deliver that additional value and really to help move that shared mission forward. And always, of course, the job board itself delivers opportunity constantly. In it's dynamic, it brings in fresh content on a regular basis. But to the point earlier, John, it also theoretically brings in opportunity for people to contribute, to mentor, to create and become thought leaders, and both in the educational space, as John mentioned, but also in the community space as a community culture and volunteer.
Yeah, I think the number one goal of associations should be to start on their own pathway to, document the competencies, to identify the skills and to start building courses and then curriculums, and then to deliver recognition for the member. And then ultimately, the job board should be able to search that database of skilled accomplishments to come up with a list of members that have actually taken and received the credentials.
Absolutely. I think that's one of those, and one of those great opportunities, right, is essentially we're, as an association, we're building a database of member talent and understanding of who they are and what they're good at. And as an association, we can leverage that understanding in order to activate people internally as well. This tool is also great for prospecting new membership, for bringing people in and defining the value around the association membership. It's a real quick understanding for people to get why they would join an association to have access to specific careers, right? That's not a hard sell. And so that the job board becomes a great prospecting tool to bring in new members. All right. We'll talk a little bit about how associations can promote career security, how they can leverage these tools and speak some language to members to help move those missions forward. So always important to at a high level understand our member motivations. I think from a high level, these are really the primary drivers for participation in a digital ecoscape. The interesting thing about both the platforms we're talking about today is that they really drive all three of these, right? We really can serve all three of these main member motivations with these two platforms.
Great. Let's talk about some examples here coming up.
Yeah, let's talk about. Oh, so let's sorry, we got a couple of examples coming up, but we also want to talk about how we're going to essentially if we understand our members' motivations, right, then we have the ability to connect that learning and that opportunity, which really helps to protect those careers, to bring that mission into the workplace, to help secure that member retention and that staffing piece we've talked to. And John, always the big one, right? Like we sort of tack it down here on the bottom, but we all know it's kind of really at the top. But drive non-dues revenue, find new ROI for the organization.
Right. I mean, the whole concept here is, when it comes down to it, is we want to put butts in the seats, and we're getting a certain revenue from putting individuals in, enrolling them in courses. But in terms of security for the member itself and their career, there's nothing like data-driven evidence.
Agreed. And I think that's really one of the opportunities as a whole for associations within these, as we build these tech stacks, as we put different tools together and try new strategies and tactics for driving member engagement, for serving value, making sure that we're understanding the data points we have, what they mean, and how we can create activation from them. All right. Talk a little bit about delivering delivering community value, which I think ultimately, right, is sort of the big picture here, and what both of these platforms really do for the association.
Yeah, and I think one of the most important things too, when is to identify the content that's going to sell, and that is done again through competencies and skill identification, and then a solid program for engaging your subject matter experts.
Great examples. Yeah, I think it's important. We all sort of know, at the association level, that content is king. We give it a lot of attention. It adds a lot of value to our digital ecoscapes, but it is one of several pillars that really drive community value.
Right. Can I say that again, Josh? Content is king.
Exactly.
The reason I bring it up the second time here is that oftentimes boards and upper management, they're willing to fund platforms, but they fall short when it comes to funding content development, and that's, content is king, and I oftentimes tell people that make sure you get your content in order before you go buy a platform.
I think that's really, really, really solid advice, John. I completely agree, and I've seen this historically in my execution. Everybody has great intent, and we put great tools in play, and then back to the idea that we're wearing too many hats. The ability to actually execute on that content really starts to become burdensome instead of supportive, and I think that's where these types of tools come into play and support that efficiency.
Right, and I always like to remind people too, when we talk about content being king, it's more than the webinar. I mean, we're all doing webinars, we're doing podcasts, and these are pieces that go into a course, that go into a curriculum. So, I mean, we're just getting started here. We've got to get beyond the webinar. And I think one of the things that we've done from a content standpoint over the last 2 years is we've really advanced in our sophistication of using the web. We're no longer afraid to be on camera. We're no longer afraid to have our picture associated with our file. And we're no longer afraid to communicate with each other over the web. So online learning has taken a big step forward. And, the next step now is to build, sustainable content that we can then, draw revenue from and help our members.
The great point, right? The COVID era really has shortened the adoption curve on web-based technologies, on digital communities as an execution and a tool, and it's time to leverage that shortened adoption curve and to deliver value, through your digital ecoscape.
Right. It's just a little reminder to let's capture the good parts of the last 2 years when it comes to communication and exchange of ideas and education.
Yeah, and and one of the things I wanted to point out, sort of this idea that of tiered content, I think speaks to what you were saying earlier, which is if we're just delivering the same level of content exclusively, right? We're never going to address everybody. So content has to be sort of at that beginner, middle, expert level, so that we can engage people who can create that content at those levels, but also so that we can serve the members who are at that level.
Right, and person, that develops education, I look at tiered and I go, is the actual content scaffold? I mean, is it designed properly with, learning objectives and then a scaffold approach of learning and engagement? Does it have real world application exercises, things like that? So the importance of instructional design and innovative ways of engaging the learner themselves.
Great point, right? If we create, and it goes back to the quality content is king.
Sure, there you go. Thank you. Right.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Yeah, so one of the things that Web Scribble does really nicely is deliver this dynamic content. In its delivery of actual job postings and listings, because those are coming in on a daily, regular basis. So that content is refreshed, it's dynamic, it's adding value to the community site, the digital ecoscape on a daily basis. It's great for driving repeat logins, for really showcasing using the member journey pathing, the member communication, the lifecycle communications to include this additional level of value. If you're working through renewals, your renewal automation, and you include the latest job postings, suddenly it's a little bit easier to remember why I joined this organization, and that there might be some opportunity, and to hit that renew button is just a little bit easier.
So just a quick question for you, Josh, and if you don't want to get into the platform, that's fine. But so when you talk about, like, for example, providing some career advice on the job platform, do you have like a template for that, or how do I keep that refreshed?
Sure. So there's a couple of different ways to do this. We have some content feeds, right? So we will deliver dynamically fresh new content to your sites. That being said, you ultimately as an organization are the experts and have access to all of the experts. So we would encourage you to leverage those expertise, those people within your community, to create fresh new content that is specific to your industry and your role, and also use this tool to deliver that content and as a prospecting tool for new membership, right? It all sort of ties together at that point.
Okay. So the next, we're talking about, that content is dynamic, it's got to be searchable, and there's got to be a learning catalog. And one of the things that a learning platform, should do first and foremost is provide a searchable learning catalog. And here's some examples here of catalogs. And not only do we want to promote the mission of the association through our learning program, but we want to be able to divide at a higher level the curriculums. So if and this is like, your meta-tag strategy, the way you're organizing, the actual curriculum or specific courses that you have. But at this, the social current, for example, that services, community programs, community-based organizations around the country. There's certain topics that are really important to them. And you can see here that, leadership training is big, but, advancing equity is very, very important for the community-based organizations. And so they've organized their catalog in a way, high-level way. And then secondly, you're able to at least in our system, we have extensive searchable catalogs. And this is where we would make intelligent recommendations based on what we know about each of your members, typically through our profile settings and other ways we've gathered information. We can give member-specific recommendations as to programs that they should be involved in, specific course content, and specific credentialing that they should seek.
I love this, the filtering, right? This is one of those opportunities to align the two systems. So if we're sort of making sure that our filtering capacity on the job board aligns with the filtering capacity on the education board, that really helps to suit that member experience as we help to foster people down those education paths.
Yep. Yep. Nothing better than a visually appealing catalog that's searchable.
Absolutely, and I think that definitely, the searchability within Web Scribble and the job search also adds quite a bit of value. So the next piece, we talked about that first column of community value. We're going to touch a little bit on culture and how both of the programs sort of support the idea of that personalized mission and taking that shared mission out into the marketplace.
Yeah, one of the ways too that we're getting more sophisticated on is being able to provide more than just a certificate. And in this case, this group essentially designed their entire learning platform around providing badges. So the idea is they took their competencies, created badges for each one, and that's how the actual learning platform is organized.
Very neat. I think one of the interesting things in terms of personalization on the Web Scribble side is the idea of like an employer pledge. So as an association or a mission-driven association, we can set some expectations and some standards with the employers who are posting opportunities within our job board. We can set some expectations around hiring diversity or having posted salaries, or using the expectations and the feedback from our membership to set some internal expectations for people looking to hire from our membership, and using some badging to highlight those members who fully support the mission, or those employers who have signed on to serve that mission in the workplace as well.
Great. I do have one final comment on badges.
Yeah.
And we see this more and more on LinkedIn, where individuals are, under their credentials category, they're actually listing their badges. And from a technology standpoint, I know that many people don't want to get in the weeds, but essentially there are two that I like out there, and that's Credly and Badger. And Badger is the old open badges system. So there's technology behind the actual badge, and I'll show you. Coming up, there's a where you actually it's a credential that has data behind it. In other words, proof that you actually accomplished that credential.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so move into this next pillar of community value. Talk a little bit about access, which I think, from a Web Scribble standpoint, one of the most important pieces is this idea of career fairs or career events, where essentially we have the ability to align recruiters looking for highly talented people with highly talented people. So, just at a high level in terms of access, being able to make those connections to schedule directly with somebody seeking your talent is really an impactful tool.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a few questions about your career fair. So tell me, in terms of how does the system support, when I think of a job fair, you think of all these booths, right? And people walk around the booths, and employers are looking for individuals in certain areas. So how do you support that from a virtual standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, essentially, what we have is the ability for employers to indicate interest, and based on a set date. Usually, a lot of times, we'll tie this to an annual conference, especially if there's a virtual component. And essentially, this becomes the idea of a trade floor to some degree. And so we have there's some scheduling capabilities, and so based on timing and what people are looking for, so some introduction capabilities and some scheduling, and that really allows people to connect with specific opportunity and to take to advance that relatively quickly.
So you're providing the platform in which to have a virtual job fair.
Exactly. Yeah. So as part of sort of the digital ecoscape provided by Web Scribble, we have this events portion, which really helps. We can sort of tie it to either in-person events or digital events, and support the access of individual members to people seeking employees directly.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, as far as, access to experts and the virtualization of live events that happened over the last few years, our system Course Stage, we supported the entire annual meeting with the system. We've reimagined the concept of a course by saying it's like a virtual event workshop, and that is a course, and it can be live in terms of your keynote speaker is speaking live in a session like this. Can be asynchronous. You've recorded a session of experts, and you access it at a certain time. We have your schedule builder, so that you can take a day, supposedly a day's event. You can say, okay, come to this for the next 4 hours and the next 8 hours, and then you can actually in advance schedule the types of learning activities that you want to participate in, and then you get a badge or a certificate for doing that. The other thing too is that if you look at this image here, these are e-posters. These are individuals presenting work that they've done, and this type of thing, again, you would get a badge for this, and then the technology of Badger and or Credly would actually link to this supporting information. So in other words, it's not just a badge that said you presented an e-poster at XYZ workshop, but that they actually can go and view it. So it's like the super resume, as I like to call it.
Absolutely. And there's nothing more more important, especially in this the association space, to the access to expertise, right? The ability as an association, that's one of the bridges that we build, right? Is from the expert to the member. And so anywhere we can help support those bridges and make them more effective, that's really what we're looking to do. And the last pillar, impact.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think this gets overlooked a lot. In terms of communication from the association. Uh, if we just spent a year together, right? What is it that we accomplished? What did we do so that I am comfortable? Let's roll again, and so really understanding and allowing the organization to showcase the impact that they're having across the membership really is another important piece of that community value, but also both these tools.
Yeah, I think this also gets down to reporting, to being able to demonstrate to executive management or the board the impact. So good reporting is essential from the system itself.
You're absolutely right. And one of the things that, again, sort of the digital ecoscape does is it has a tendency to bridge departments. And so there is opportunity throughout these digital ecoscapes to serve all those departments individually and to solve problems. But a lot of times that access might be a little more siloed than we wanted to. So, as a community manager, right, are we engaging with marketing and bringing back customer success stories, right? You see one here. Are we providing those back out of the community or out of the job job board or out of the learning management system as a success story, so that that can be amplified across our membership.
Yeah, and this image here on the left is actually, I took it from LinkedIn. I found an individual that under credentials and certifications, listed that they were a speaker at a conference, and you can see in the bottom image that, okay, it's very brief, but it says show credential. And when you click on that show credential, it literally goes to more detail. And this is where, so it explains the event, and then you can add as much supporting information, like, my poster set, the poster session I was talking about, all, controlled again by technology. And this is the Open Badges Badger or Credly, which your system should support, your learning platform.
Absolutely. And to the point about impact, right? As soon as we are able to take some of these learnings, these certifications, and showcase them in LinkedIn, in the online community, which is also possible, those types of opportunity that really it identifies individual skill sets. It also highlights impact, right? It allows that member to showcase a level of skill and understanding that they have obtained from their relationship with the organization.
Absolutely.
Whew. I think we're getting close to the end here. Just want to sort of go over at sort of a high level the organizational value and the impact areas that both Web Scribble and Web Courseworks can really drive at the association level. So obviously we've talked about and defined to some degree to member and community value, and how we can bring that to the table.
You want to be your members' place to go to demonstrate their lifelong learning portfolio.
Absolutely. I think that's a great,
yeah.
What that does is it gives somebody a long-term value in the relationship, and B, from an organizational standpoint, repeat logins, regular visits, content consumption metrics. So when we're looking at the success of the content that we're creating, making sure and understanding the consumption value really allows us to focus it and change it if needed, or showcase that highlight that value.
Right, and the two key things from a platform standpoint is, does it have a flexible learner transcript? Is it tracking all the details but showing summaries? And does it actually have the access to the certificates or the badges? And then does it allow the learner to self-report?
Yeah, and I think that is an important piece, because it allows the organization to account for things outside of their visibility.
Yep.
Great. Obviously, non-dues revenue, great tool to drive that. Member retention and acquisition. There's a lot of opportunity around the value and proving the value.
Yeah, I really like to say, I know non-dues revenue is a kind of a cliche in the association space, and I really like to talk about it in terms of, are you building an online learning business? In other words, are you really looking at this as a revenue generator from a business standpoint? And not enough associations are putting an investment into doing that. So very, very important to go, we're going to build a business here around online learning, and create value for members and charge for that value.
To the same point, right? There's exactly that same opportunity within Web Scribble, and where we strategically plan together, we are more effective, we have better results, we drive more revenue, we drive more members. So these cross-platform opportunities, strategies, I think they're really where we're moving going forward.
Absolutely. This
Cool.
has been fun, Josh.
Yeah, this was a great conversation.
Where'd you get the cat? I like it.
He's cute, isn't he? There's a couple of different versions of him, so I thought it'd be fun to walk him through. He's he came right from the PowerPoint templates.
Good. So we got any questions coming in, Matt?
No questions in now. We do want to leave the opportunity if anybody does have questions to submit. We'd be happy to address those.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if anybody is currently using the two platforms, we'd love to chat about how we can help you create some successes.
Absolutely. And if you're just getting started and you're interested in doing some strategic brainstorming, I know that both Josh and I would be happy to chat with you.
Absolutely, that's actually my favorite thing to do.
Great.
Great. Well, I think we're a few minutes early, but I think we're in good shape.
Absolutely. Want to thank everybody for joining today. Thank you, John and Josh, for your time as well. It was really impactful and an enjoyable, well time spent for the webinar. We'll be sending up a follow-up email to all registrants with the link to the webinar recording. So feel free to share that with your colleagues, team members, anybody you think this would be impactful, and it'll be available on LinkedIn, YouTube, and a couple different platforms. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Yep. Bye.
Bye.